Hey, good Thanksgiving Eve, everyone. Here's another edition of Weather for Weather Geeks. If you watch the 6 o'clock news this evening, you know the perils of live TV sometimes. So when we do these live remotes out at a different location, we either have a truck with an antenna, and it's a very reliable signal usually, or you have what we call a backpack, which is like a mobile unit that uses cell phone signals to transmit the broadcast back to the station, and sometimes those backpacks aren't real friendly to us, and that's what happened at 6 o'clock. If you were watching, you know what I'm talking about here. During the middle of my weather segment, everything just froze up, so it was all for naught. But anyway, here we are with Weather Geeks this evening, and let's get right to it. This is the map showing the temperature anomalies, or difference from average, I should say, for the month so far through the first 25 days. Obviously, it's been a warmer than average month here locally. Plains, southeast, east coast, up to the northeast, it's been warm. The only cool spots have been from the Rockies on west. And it's kind of an interesting perspective here when you compare this month, which is in the middle of a strong El Nino, with Novembers in previous years that had strong El Ninos. And in a couple of those years, there are some stark differences. Now, back in 1982, the map looks sort of similar. It was colder than average in the plain states, unlike this year, but the Rockies and the West Coast was cold, the East was warm. So 1982-83 was a very strong El Nino, and the November map sort of looks similar to this year. In 1997, the strongest El Nino on record, 97-98, you can see the map looks nothing like this year in November. It was cold in the East, cold in the plain states, and warm in the West, kind of the opposite of this year. And back in 1972, another very strong El Nino, cold in a lot of the country, at least compared to average, particularly in the southern plain states. But you notice, again, these maps don't look a whole lot like the map for this November. Now, does that mean anything for the winter season? Not necessarily. We still think that the winter season will end up being warmer than average by some margin here, particularly the first half of the winter. Compared to the averages, the back half of the winter, late January and February, might be kind of cold. But until then, we expect to spend a lot of the time above average still. So November, even though the map as a whole across the country looks different than past El Ninos, we're not letting that really influence our thinking too much for the winter season. All right, today, 56 degrees this afternoon. It's a beautiful day. And this evening, as I'm recording this at 7:45, it's still balmy for this time of the year. 48 Youngstown, 50 Pittsburgh, 50 Columbus. Look at all the mild air that's building out across the plain states. But then you run into a sharp cold front out here, and boy, they're getting set for a snowstorm in time for Thanksgiving around Denver, Colorado Springs. There'll be an ice event, which I'll talk about in the plain states. And look at all this Arctic air. 1 below zero in Great Falls, Montana at 5:45 in the evening Mountain Time the day before Thanksgiving. Not so nice out there. They're going to keep that real harsh cold out in the northern Rockies. All right, futurecast for the next couple of days. As we've been talking about, Thanksgiving's going to be a nice day. Isobars getting a little bit close together here. There'll be a breeze, not real windy, but a breeze. And I do think tomorrow some of these what we call debris clouds coming off the shower activity out here, they'll be overhead, so it will be a cloudier day tomorrow. But I do think there'll be some milky or some filtered sun, and obviously it's still going to be a very nice day, just not quite as pristine as today was. Now Friday, the front's looking slower and slower. So certainly you're going to be dry if you're doing some shopping Friday morning. And as we get into the afternoon even, I think a lot of the rain's going to try to hold off until just about sunset. So here's 10 o'clock in the evening. By this point, front's on top of us with a few showers around, and we'll hang on to the rain for a lot of Friday night. Saturday, and actually from Saturday on, the forecast is not exactly easy. The model's struggling a little bit with how far south this front gets before it might start lifting back north. Here's the RPM model showing at 10 o'clock in the morning. Even though the rain's gone, we're hanging on to the clouds. Some of the modeling brings in this drier air by the afternoon, gives us some sun. Some of the modeling keeps us cloudy, and the European model actually keeps it raining here for Saturday afternoon. Now, our forecast for Saturday afternoon is going to be a dry one, but not real optimistic at this point about much in the way of sunshine on Saturday. Now, part of the forecast challenges actually, believe it or not, have to do with Sandra, I'm not sure which is the correct pronunciation, but this is a pretty strong hurricane in the Pacific Basin, and actually this is the strongest hurricane in the Pacific this late in the season on record. Very unusual, and has a lot to do with El Nino. This system will actually interact with the old front out across the plain states into the Mississippi Valley, and might have some impacts on our weather as we go into next week. In the meantime, has maximum sustained winds of 115 this evening, and here's the forecast track. As we go through the next few days, this will make landfall in Mexico. by the weekend. Unfortunately, not a great holiday weekend for Cabo and parts of southwestern Mexico, and out into the Baja of California. But nonetheless, this will, of course, lose the circulation over the mountains of central Mexico. But then we do think it has a chance to kind of reorganize once it gets up here into the U.S. for next week. Now, of course, it's not going to be a hurricane or anything like that, but it will be a low-pressure system that might attach to that old front and produce some interesting weather in parts of our region by midweek. So here's the GFS model for the weekend then. Mentioned that some of the modeling is hanging on to the clouds all day Saturday, and the GFS certainly does that. Keeps the rain away, but the clouds hang tough. Let me show you the European model quickly here. Show you what I mean by it, keeping the rain around. Look at this. By 7 in the evening, European still has it raining. And since the European is saying this, and the European tends to have the best track record of all our models, we have to pay attention to it. But at this point, again, we're going to keep Saturday's forecast dry once we're past the early morning hours. Now, as we go into the rest of the weekend, here's Sunday. GFS shows a low moving through the lower Ohio Valley and some rain maybe in southern Ohio. The European model has most of the rain in southern Ohio as well. We've got a 30% chance in our forecast for Sunday. I think the best chance to get wet will be south of I-70, but it's a forecast we're going to have to keep an eye on. This is another busy travel day on Sunday after Thanksgiving, and we'll have to keep an eye on the roads. Not expecting any snow or anything, but there could be some rain, particularly if you're traveling to the south. All right, for next week, here's a look at Monday. Here's the GFS. GFS kind of loses the tropical circulation. The European has a little bit more of a pronounced remnant low attaching to that front and pushing up through the Ohio Valley here on Monday. Now, whichever model you believe, I suspect Monday is a largely uneventful day. It might be pretty cloudy. Going to keep a low chance of rain in the forecast, but not looking, I don't think, at much. I think the better chance is probably going to ultimately be on Tuesday, as that low, this is the old tropical system, strengthening again, moves through. Pretty good band of showers shown on the European here on Tuesday. GFS has a weaker low and not as much rain. We got our work cut out for us with the forecast, is the bottom line, as we head into the longer range. Going to be quite a bit of rain with the tropical enhancement here across the southern plains over the next several days. You see the legend up here at the top. Someone's going to get 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 inches of rain out of this. That's one part of the story. The other part is the snow aspect of things. It's stormy out west, and through Saturday and Sunday, Rocky Mountain State's doing really well down into the panhandle of Texas. Healthy amounts of snow, and there will be an ice component to this as well. Check out our Futurecast model showing the ice accumulation through Saturday morning. Quite a bit of ice damage possible here for panhandle of Texas, parts of Oklahoma, up into Kansas, maybe Omaha, maybe Des Moines gets a little bit as well. Suspect overall the worst of this will be in Kansas, Oklahoma, and northern Texas. Thankfully, no problems, no worries with any ice around here anytime real soon. Our wintry weather is going to hold off for a while at least. All right, that is what is today? The Wednesday night weather for Weather Geeks here on my weather blog, ericwfmj.com and wfmj.com/weather. Thanks as always for watching, and I look forward to seeing you tonight on 21 News at 11. I will be working tomorrow, but if I don't hear from you by then, or if you don't comment on anything on my Facebook page or anything like that, if you're offline anyway, have a great Thanksgiving. Hope you can enjoy it with some friends, some family, and some loved ones. We'll see you.